Henry Howard Holmes started his career by scamming insurance companies. In 1886, Holmes moved to Chicago City and switched his career. He adopted the name Dr. H. H. Holmes and started working as a pharmacist. During his practice as a pharmacist, Holmes began to kill people for their properties. He built a 3-story inn that he referred to as his murder castle. The murder castle was a torture cell that was fully equipped with gas lines, trapdoors and soundproof rooms. It was a maze that no victim could escape. He had installed a surgical table and a medieval rack in his basement to torture his victims. Holmes's primary victims were women. He would lure young women into his murder castle, where he would suffocate and kill them with poisonous gas. After killing the victims, he would cut them open, cremate them in the burner, or sometimes skin them and sell their skeletons to medical schools. On November 17, 1894, Holmes was arrested when his co-conspirator informed the police about his malpractice because he failed to deliver money. Holmes confessed to the police, "I was born with the devil in me. I could not help the fact that I was a murderer, no more than a poet can help the inspiration to sing." H. H. Holmes, the police charged Holmes for 4 murders. However, Holmes confessed to killing 27 people. It is believed that Holmes killed more than 200 people. In 1896, Dr. Holmes was hanged to death, born Herman Mudgett in Gilmanton, New Hampshire. In 1861, the twisted swindler eventually moved to Chicago and took a job as a pharmacist under the name Dr. Henry Howard Holmes. The timing was perfect as the World's Columbian Exposition, also known as Chicago World's Fair, was expected to bring 750,000 tourists to the city in 1893, and Holmes devised a cunning plan. Holmes built a hotel which became the last resting place of many victims. Each room at the murder castle was a death trap designed to torture and kill. Holmes is considered to be the first serial killer in America. He eventually confessed to 27 murders, yet the actual body count could have been up to 200. He famously stated, "I was born with the devil in me. I could not help the fact that I was a murderer, no more than the poet can help the inspiration to sing. If the walls of this hotel could talk, they would most likely scream." Holmes was known as a highly intelligent child, and later in life he attended the University of Michigan Medical School where he studied medicine. Due to his academic success, Holmes was regularly bullied at school, and one of his earliest memories is bullies forcing him to hug a skeleton. However, for Holmes this had the opposite intended effect, as he felt no fear. Instead, it was therapeutic for him, a sign of what was about to become. In 1885, he moved to Chicago and took a job working in a pharmacy in Englewood. When the owner of the pharmacy passed away, Holmes managed to convince his widow to let him take full control of the business. It wasn't long before the widow went missing, although Holmes claimed she had moved to California. This is an unlikely story. Holmes now owned his own thriving pharmacy, and from this, he had enough capital to also purchase the property across the street, which he redesigned as a 3-story hotel. This was just the beginning of his evil plans. Holmes designed the elaborate hotel himself. The impressive building located on the corner of 63rd Street took up an entire block, and passers-by would often stop to admire the ongoing construction. Initially, the building was to be completed in 6 months, however, it took 3 times as long due to Holmes constantly firing the contractors. He became known for accusing laborers of carrying out shoddy work and not paying them at all. Not only did Holmes' scheme save him a small fortune on wages, but it also meant only he knew the real layout of the hotel. To the average onlooker, later the Chicago Tribune wrote in 1937, "Oh, what a queer house it was. In all America, there was none other like it. Its chimneys stuck out where chimneys should never stick out. Its stairways ended nowhere in particular. Winding passages brought the uninitiated with a frightful jerk back to where they had started from. There were rooms that had no doors. There were doors that had no rooms. A mysterious house it was indeed, a crooked house." Finally, in 1892, the castle was complete, boasting 3 floors and a cellar. The first floor was made up of street-level shops that he leased to merchants. Now, Holmes was ready to welcome guests for the first time as tourists flocked to the city in celebration of Chicago's World Fair. The narrow, dimly lit corridors were fitted with gas jets on the wall. There were many dead ends and stairways that led to nowhere. Only Holmes had the key for many of the doorways. Opposite a room where Holmes built his own personal office was a walk-in bank vault that also, although the bedrooms appeared ordinary, they were all airtight, soundproofed and equipped with peepholes. No doubt for the twisted serial killer to watch his victims as they drew their last breath. The rooms were also fitted with alarms so if anyone was to escape, Holmes would be alerted. Then when the evil deed was done, the second story contained trapdoors and hidden panels in the closest so bodies could be thrown down the greased shafts directly to the cellar below where the cadavers were a precious commodity to Holmes. Holmes did not mind getting his hands dirty when it came to disposing of the victims. Once the bodies were in the basement, he placed them in the mini vats of acid and quicklime pits. He also had several operating tables, cabinets filled with surgical instruments and a large kiln that could fit an entire body which he used to cremate his victims. Then there was the twisted centerpiece, a medieval rack. Holmes later referred to this instrument of torture as an elasticity determinator. The young Emmeline Sigrand relocated to Chicago after Holmes offered her a position as his personal secretary that paid 3 times the average salary for this line of work. She arrived with $800 in savings and it wasn't long before Holmes managed to get his hands on the money, claiming it would be invested well. Things eventually turned sour and Emmeline told a neighbor she was heading back home. That was the last time. It's believed that Holmes had poured acid onto the floor of the vault to hasten the consumption of oxygen. The theory is that Emmeline stepped in the acid and kicked at the vault door in a final attempt to save her own life. The footprint was a chilling reminder. Word soon got around that Holmes was not to be trusted. He had gained a reputation of purchasing goods from creditors and failing to keep up with the invoices. The hotel itself was furnished in the finest interiors, yet all for show. As the owner, Holmes had befriended a carpenter named Benjamin Beitzel who also came with his own criminal past. The two soon became schemers together and an attorney later described Holmes then murdered Beitzel's 3 children. The twisted serial killer locked the children in a trunk that had a hole drilled on the side and used gas to asphyxiate the young victims. One man who had been an acquaintance of Holmes had seen news of Beitzel's death in the payment of $10,000 insurance. He wrote in 1894, Holmes met railroad heiress Minnie Williams whilst he was visiting Boston and he told her his name was Harry Gordon. When she moved to Chicago to be with him, he advised her to call him Holmes as this was his business alias. On November 17, 1894, Holmes was finally arrested in Boston. Then in August 1895, much of the hotel was destroyed by a fire which created many different theories about the real motive behind the incident. Some believed Holmes had paid an associate to burn down the murder castle. So, despite his execution date looming ahead, Holmes had not quite retired from making money just yet. His full confession was sold to the Hearst Corporation for $7,500, worth $230,000 today, which was later found to be mostly nonsense as he claimed satanic possession was at play. On May 7, 1890.